Hello everybody, my name is Cody bringing us yet another video, and in today's video, this might be part 1 of the Bard, but it actually might just be the Bard in the whole. It kind of depends on how fast I can actually get through everything. So, just as a quick recap, basically, what I'm doing now is the subclass tier list. I'm going through every single class's multiple subclasses that they have, and I'm ranking them against each other for how well they can perform in a campaign. The criteria basically is how well can they perform in a fight, how well can they perform outside of a fight, and do the features that they give benefit, like really strengthen what the actual class is supposed to do. So that's saying like, does the barbarian subclasses do stuff that is related to what a barbarian should do? Tank, have stuff, resistances, be able to hit hard. Does it start giving it spell casting? Because that's not really like the main topic of a barbarian, so that might bring it down. But being able to tank better, like the totem warrior, being able to give more speed or more resistance, really good. So that's kind of how I'm ranking it. In the very first video, you have the artificer, artillerist in first, armorer here, in a great battlesmith and alchemist there, and then last video you had the Barbarian with the Zealot, Totem Warrior, Ancestral Guardian, Berserker, Storm Herald. In Not Nice, that is the Path of the Beast, and then Barbarian Battle Rager here, just trash. Note these are also all my opinions, so you might differ, and you might also say, oh, why are you putting it down here when it could actually be up here? That's quite simple. How the tiers work is that this is basically saying this will always be good. There will never really be a time it benefits every part of the class itself and adds flavor perfectly. This is saying, yes, it's great. It would work in basically every single campaign. It's just, these ones are just a little bit better than this one, but this could easily be put into this with a few different changes, but these ones do not need changes. Here is saying they're good at what they do. Other subclasses might do what they do a little bit better, but all in all they're pretty good, and in the right campaign they'll be S tier all the way to the top. True neutral is just saying, yeah, they are. That's basically the class itself. They add a little bit, they take away a little bit. They could be incredible in the right campaign, but at the same time in the right campaign they could be utter trash. Not nice is basically saying that it takes away a little bit from the class itself. Like, if for some, like the barbarian could do something else with his rages other than rage. Like, yeah, that's really cool and interesting, but the barbarian's whole shtick is rage, and now you're saying, oh, well, you can use rage to gain advantage on stuff. Like, you spend one of your daily rages to do that. It's like, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. You probably don't want to be doing that, so it drops it down. Trash is just saying you basically never want to choose that one. Don't know enough is basically, have I never played it? Have I never seen anybody play it? Is it literally brand spanking new, so I've never seen anything on it? That's basically what you put there, but I'm reading over everything, so it shouldn't be too hard to do, as I've already got the Bard pulled up. So I'll basically be reading through, explaining what the subclasses get, not explain the Bard itself. That will be tomorrow's video on Sunday. Well, 2 days from me, because I am technically recording this on Friday, but it'll be tomorrow's video as this goes up on Saturday. So this will either be part 1 of 2, both videos going up on Saturday, just at different times, or if I get through this quick enough, then it'll be a 1-part, hour-long-ish video. So let's just hop into things. So when we get to 3rd level, you get to choose your subclass. I'm not going over anything that the actual Bard gets, so if you're wondering what all of these are, I might go over minor explanation like Bardic Inspiration, because that's like the whole shtick of the Bard. Then, I'll kind of briefly go over what that is, but for the most part, I'm just talking about the subclasses and all the miscellaneous benefits that you get from these subclasses. So, right off the bat, one of the newest ones, as you can see, it is not here, is College of Creation. At 3rd level, you get Motive Potential, which allows you to use, when using a Bardic Inspiration die, whatever creature you give it to will gain an extra benefit within use of the Inspiration die. Basically, what your Bardic Inspiration die does is that you give an ally Bardic Inspiration. You inspire them to do something a bit better, which allows them to roll a certain die. It starts with a d6, gets to an 8, a 10, and then a d12 by the end. And this basically allows you, while you're inspired, whenever you roll a d20, you can use your Bardic Inspiration to roll and add on top of that. So if you roll a d20 and you have a +4 to it, you'll roll it out. It'll be a 13 plus 4, 17. Well, you know that the enemy has an AC of 20 and you really want to hit, so you grab your Bardic Inspiration, you roll it, you roll your d12 with it, and now you've added 6 extra to the roll overall, making a 23 total, allowing you to hit. That's basically what it does. It can be used on any d20, so as you can see, it can be used on ability check, attack roll, and saving throw. So whichever one you use as part of the mode of potential would give you a different benefit. When using it as an ability check, when the creature rolls the Bardic Inspiration die to add to an ability check, the creature can roll the Bardic Inspiration die again and choose which roll to use, as the mode pops and emits colorful, harmless sparks for a moment. So what this is saying is that you basically, at 3rd level, you'll still be a d6. You basically get to roll 2 separate ones as long as it's an ability check, and you get to choose which one to use, so advantage on it's basically advantage on the Bardic Inspiration die. So if you would roll a 1 on the d6, well, you get a second roll that's now a 4, so you get to add 4 instead of 1, and then your Bardic Inspiration die has been used as it pops and emits colorful, harmless sparks for a moment. And that one is only on ability check. You do not get that benefit on the attack roll or saving throw. For the attack roll, immediately after the creature rolls a Bardic Inspiration die to add it to an attack roll against a target, the mode thunderously shatters. The target and each creature of your choice that you can see within 5 feet of it must succeed on a Constitution saving throw against your spell save DC or take thunder damage equal to the number rolled on the Bardic Inspiration die. So what this one is saying is that basically when you roll, is that if you do this because you want to add 4 to your d20 roll for hitting them, so if you roll a d20 plus 4, it's a 17, and 17 breaks the enemy's armor class, and you rolled the +4 so that you can get up to it, then that means that the enemy that you're attacking will take 4 damage, and any enemy that is within 5 feet of them will take 5 damage if they fail on a Constitution saving throw against your spell save DC, so the Bard's spell save DC. So, if a fighter is the one who used it, it's not against the fighter's save throw DC, it is against the Bard's save throw DC, so it'll be somewhat high, especially later on, especially when you can start using, a d12 as your roll. So you might be able to get 6. You can just do an extra 12 damage to a couple of enemies, and thunder damage is highly unresisted, so it's pretty good. And lastly, when you use it on a saving throw, immediately after the creature rolls the Bardic Inspiration die and adds it to a saving throw, the mote vanishes with the sound of soft music, causing the creature to gain temporary hit points equal to the number rolled on the Bardic Inspiration die plus your Charisma modifier, minimum of 1 temporary hit point. So that's basically saying that when you roll your d6, if it's for a saving throw, because of this 2, you save, because let's say I'm going to keep the 17 was needed, you rolled a 16, so you rolled your inspiration die, it is now an 18, which means that you save, then you get to add 2 from the Bardic Inspiration die, and the Charisma modifier, let's say, is +4, so whoever made the saving throw because of this gets to add +6 temporary hit points to themselves. So they get to because they saved against something, they also gain a little bit of temporary hit points, which will probably mean that they might have just used those temporary hit points to take the damage instead of them. So it's pretty helpful, as you basically just for using the Bard's ability, you get a little bit of temporary hit points, you get a little bit of extra damage with this area, and you get to have a better chance at saving on an ability check, which all in all, it's pretty good and extremely helpful. I definitely do give that probably a solid A, B+, A- range on the subclass level 3 abilities, just because it doesn't take away and it literally just adds benefits to the core function of the Bard. Also at level 3, you get Performance of Creation, which basically, because I'm not going to be reading over this entire thing as to try to speed the videos a little bit more, this basically will allow you to, in an unoccupied space within 10 feet of you, the GP value of the item, you get to create an item, and the item can't be 20 times your Bard level in price, and it has to be medium or smaller, and you basically just create an item that exists for after a number of hours equal to your proficiency bonus. So right off the bat, that means that you get to have an item that is 3 times 20, so the item can be up to 60 gold worth, it has to be medium or smaller, and the item will be there for 2 hours according to your proficiency bonus, and you can't do so until a long rest, unless you expend a spell slot of 2nd level or higher to use the feature again, and you can only have one feature active at a time. The best thing is that this is just saying is an item. It has to be one non-magical item, so you can't like create a bag of holding in a space for temporary time, but you can't make a normal chest to store stuff. Or it never says anything about not creating a weapon. You can also create things such as a bear trap. So if you need to just kind of throw out and lay yourself as a bear trap to protect you for a moment, you can real quick create that and just defend yourself. And this is just a free ability that you get once per long rest, unless you want to use a second spell slot to create this. But this is basically a free, stronger use of an illusion-based thing because you actually are creating the item. So it's actually pretty strong, knowing that the fact that it's kind of free. I'm just going to make myself 20th level so that I can see everything all at once. Next you get, I believe it would be, yes, animating performance. So at 6th level, as an action you can target a large or smaller magical item, non-magical item, you can see within 30 feet of you and animate it. The animate item uses the dancing item stat block, which uses your proficiency bonus. The item is friendly to you and your companions and obeys your commands. It lives for 1 hour until it is reduced to 0 points or until you die. So you basically, it'll show your initiative count if you're using it in combat. When you use your Bardic Inspiration feature, you can command the item as part of the same bonus action you use for your Bardic Inspiration. So you get this once a day, and you basically can create a non-magical item to become a quote-unquote magical construct, as it says right here. With a construct, they'll have an AC of 16, which is fairly high, to be honest, especially at 6th level. That's probably higher than you as a bard. You get a hit points would be 10, 5 times your bard level, so at level 6 they'll have 10 plus 5 times 6, which is 30, 30 plus 10 is 40, so they'll have a pretty decent amount of HP, especially for such a low level. That is, well, at 20th level, you probably wouldn't have 123 hit points at level 6, but you may have a little bit more than 40 depending on what your constitution is. So this actually might actually have a higher health than you. At the current moment, it would be 110 hit points if you are level 20. If you are level 20 using it. So it would be an item with an AC of 16, 110 hit points, a speed of 30, and a fly speed of 30 feet while hovering. They have a strength of 18, dex of 14, plus 2, 16 plus 3, a 4 intelligence, 3, 10 wisdom, 6 charisma, immune to poison and psychic, immune to charmed, exhaustion, poison, and frighten. Senses is dark vision and passive perception of 10. It understands the languages you know. Challenge is your proficiency bonus. Immutable form. The item is immune to any spell or effect that would alter its form. So don't think that you can spawn this in and then cast polymorph on it. Irrepressible dance. When any creature starts its turn within 10 feet of the item can increase or decrease, your choice, the walking speed of that creature by 10 feet until the end of the turn, provided the item isn't incapacitated. So this will allow you to make enemies slower and to speed up your allies. And then as an action, it'll make a melee weapon attack. Your spell attack modifier to hit reaches 5 feet. One target you can see, 1d10 plus your proficiency bonus force damage. So this is basically just, you can create an ally temporarily. For if you're in the middle of combat, you can just boop, turn that chair into a dancing item, and now you have something that can meat shield for you, can hit things that are getting too close to you, as it is somewhat strong at level 6 at least, and will have a little bit of hit points and a decent AC, and also a pretty good ability to help your allies. But of course it also has a fly speed of 30 feet, which means that if you turn a chair into this, and then you can basically just make it fly around and get you to places. So even outside of combat, it's actually pretty good. Next up, you get... what do you get at 10th level? Do you not get anything at 10th level for subclass? Huh. Hold on, let me double check if you get anything at 10th level for the subclass. It looks like you get expertise. Nope, expertise is right there. So it looks like you don't get anything at 10th level or 12th level for this subclass. No. Oh, do you get counter charm though? As you can tell, I definitely didn't do anything. No, I definitely should have done a little bit of research just before I hopped into this, but you know, I like to just hop in because I'm kind of dumb that way. So I guess what you get at 14th level is Creative Crescendo. When you use your Performance of Creation feature, you can create more than one item at once. The number of items equals your Charisma modifier, minimum of 2 items. If you create an item that would exceed that number, you choose which of your previously created items disappears. Only one of these items can be of the maximum size you can create. The rest must be small or tiny. You are no longer limited by gold value when creating items with Performance of Creation. So that's saying that when you're using this ability right here to create just mystical items through magical means, no longer is the gold required, and no longer is it one item per day. You basically can, when making one, you can make up to your charisma modifier, which at this point will probably be 5, if not higher, from magical means. So you basically get to create 5 of them. One item can be medium, the rest have to be small or tiny, and there's no gold restraint. Still has to be non-magical, but there's no gold restraint, which means that you can just basically be creating a whole bunch of miscellaneous things that can probably really help your team out in a pinch. As a capstone, it's alright. It doesn't add the most. 3rd, 6th, and 14th level, so they don't have a 10th level capstone, 10th level ability. So, good to know. So, as a capstone, not the best. You know, definitely motor potential and animating performance are where it's really strong. Performance of creation, and then of course crescendo, creative crescendo. It adds a bit more flavor to the class, but just looking purely at motor potential and the animating performance, I definitely, it does not exist here. I definitely would put this as a high, nice, low, great. I'd have to see the rest of the classes before I really can say whether or not I would put it as low, great, or high, nice. Just because while the 3rd level ability is really good, as it just basically adds to an ability you're already going to be doing, and animating performance will allow you to create a temporary ally that can help you out in some cases. The 3rd level ability doesn't do too much. The performance of creation and crescendo, creative crescendo, don't really do too much. And the bard not having a 10th level is alright because they get, other things. They get expertise and magical secrets, which I'll go over in tomorrow's video. So all in all, high nice, like a solid 88 to 92 range. I will determine what it is once I've looked at the other bard classes, which next up will be the College of Glamour. College of Glamour at 3rd level will give you Mantle of Inspiration. As a bonus action, you can expend 1 use of your bardic inspiration to grant yourself a wondrous appearance. When you do so, choose a number of creatures you can see and that can see you within 60 feet of you, up to a number equal to your charisma modifier, minimum of 1. Each of them gains 5 temporary hit points. When a creature gains these temporary hit points, it can immediately use its reaction to move up to its speed without provoking opportunity attacks. The temporary hit points will increase 8 at 5, 11 at 10, 14 at 15th. So, basically this is saying that rather than giving your bardic inspiration to your team, you can use one of your bardic inspiration dice to make yourself look more glamorous, which will give your allies, a couple of allies at least, temporary hit points, which 5 at low level isn't bad, but later on you will probably never be using this because even at 15th level, which let's say you do get to 15th level, a lot of times you don't get all the way to the highest, you're only getting 14. It's not like it's 14 plus charisma plus proficiency bonus or something like that, or even plus level. So it's kind of low and doesn't really bring a whole lot to the table. It's could have been better, and it's actually making it so instead of using your bardic inspiration on your team to strengthen them, you're using them for selfish means in a sense, because instead of helping them hit an enemy or save against something, you're just giving them a little bit of temporary hit points, which only does stuff in battle. So, although the good thing is that Bardic Inspiration, I'll pull it up real quick. You can, nope, it's only after a long rest. So, you would lose them. So it's not even like you could do this before you enter a battle and give your allies this, take a short rest to regain them, and then go into battle with all your inspiration and some of your allies with temporary hit points. Not exactly the best thing. And also at third level, you get enthralling performance. If you perform for at least 1 minute, you can attempt to inspire wonder in your audience by singing, reciting a poem, or dancing. At the end of the performance, choose a number of humanoids, only humanoids, within 60 feet of you who watched and listened to all of it, up to a number equal to your charisma modifier. That's two things that are a couple of things that are down immediately. You're performing for a minute, which is a little, like a decent bit of time, and then they also have to be humanoid, so you couldn't do this against, non-humanoid if you're trying to do it against creatures, or if you're trying to do it against, you know, demons and devils, which I believe are not humanoid. It doesn't do too much, and then they had to have watched and listened to all of it, which means that if at any point they stop watching or listening for whatever reason, then, well, you kind of lose out on them, up to a number equal to your charisma modifier, which is alright. Each target must succeed on a wisdom saving throw against your spell save DC or be charmed by you. While charmed in this way, the target idolizes you, it speaks glowingly of you to anyone who talks to it, and it hinders anyone who opposes you, although it avoids violence unless it was already inclined to fight on your behalf. This effect ends on target after 1 hour if it takes any damage, if you attack it or it witnesses you attacking or damaging any of its allies. If a target succeeds on its saving throw, the target has no hint that you try to charm it, and you can't use this feature until you finish a short or long rest. So it's basically you can charm a couple of people to help you out, which is good outside of combat. But then the issue is that you have to be doing for a minute. They have to be paying attention the whole time. They have to be humanoid. You only can get at the current moment you'll probably only get 4 people from your charisma modifier. The best, like the really strong part is the fact that they don't know that you try to charm it, which a lot of times, like stuff like the friends, um, the friends ability, the friends spell will say, oh, they cast the friend spell on you, and it's like, oh, okay, well now that makes it kind of bad. This one, they have no clue that you even tried to do it, which is cool, but this doesn't really do anything, and it kind of takes you out of it for a sec. So, uh, not exactly a glowing spot for the glamour bard. At 6th level, you gain Mantle of Majesty. You gain the ability to cloak yourself in a fey magic that makes others want to serve you. As a bonus action, you cast Command without expending a spell slot, and you take on an appearance of unearthly beauty for 1 minute, or until your concentration ends, as if you were concentrating on a spell. During this time, you can cast Command as a bonus action on each of your turns without expending a spell slot. Any creature charmed by you automatically fails its saving throw against the command you cast within this feature. So this kind of works in with the enthralling performance, where you can basically get people to do what you want, and you can also just naturally be using command all the time while in this state. But this takes a bonus action, which means that if you want to be using this ability to cast command on people, you cannot be also giving people bardic inspiration or doing other spells, because you need to be casting command as a bonus action, which means that you either choose to inspire your allies to cast a spell or to use command on if anyone is able to be affected by this spell. It's alright. I mean, it plays into the enthralling performance, which is good that it's keeping the theme. But once again, this is taking away what you kind of want to be doing as a bard, which is slinging out your ability, your bardic inspiration dice here and there, trying to charm people naturally, just because your charisma is pretty high, so you probably don't even need to do enthralling performance. I mean, you can use, suggestion and other charm spells with this, and then here, if there's really a time when you need to be commanding that many people, realistically, no. So this doesn't have too many uses or really big benefits, in my opinion. And then at 14th level, you get Unbreakable Majesty. Your appearance permanently gains an otherworldly aspect that makes you look more lovely and fierce. In addition, as a bonus action, you can assume a magically majestic presence for 1 minute or until you are incapacitated. For the duration, whenever any creature tries to attack you for the first time on an attack, the attacker must make a charisma save throw against your spell save DC. On a failed save, it can attack you on this turn, and it must choose a new target for its attack or the attack is wasted. On a successful save, it can attack you on this turn, but has disadvantage on any saving throw. It makes against your spells on the next turn. You can use this after a short or long rest. This is the best part of the battle class, but it's the capstone, which capstones are not always met, as usually if you're starting from level 1, you don't always get up to the higher levels of play. Usually the campaign will be ended, your character would have died, you just kind of fall out of that session, of that campaign. So it doesn't always get to the capstone, but if you do, or you're just playing a level 20 one-shot type of thing, then this one is really good, because you can either just straight up make it to where they cannot attack you by saying, hey, you basically just constantly have the Sanctuary spell up on you, but with Charisma instead of Wisdom, which makes it a bit better, because less creatures will have Charisma compared to Wisdom, so it's pretty good in that aspect. And then even if they do save on you and they get to hit you, well, next turn they're gonna have disadvantage on save throws against your spells. So they hit you, well now you're gonna be able to hit them with a fireball a lot easier for maximum damage because they're at disadvantage, or any other spell that you might want to cast. So the saving grace is your capstone, but you don't always get all the way up there, and the fact that you have to wait 14 levels to get that, and then it does a decent bit of stuff for you, but everything else, Mantle of Inspiration, Enthralling Performance, and Mantle of Majesty, they really do not they bring you down more, because the bard can, like, depending on your DM, the bard can already naturally do some of those things. Like, you can already, perform for so long that people will become, enamored with you and will do stuff as you say. Maybe not to the degree that the Glamour Bard is allowing you to do. This one, your Mantle of Inspiration, if you really want to be giving your team temporary hit points, because, I mean, yes, you can do it in the middle of battle, and you can't do the other thing I'm about to say in the middle of battle, but you can probably just take Inspiring Leader, which will add more stuff to you. Let me pull up Inspiring Leader just so I can showcase what it really does for you. Inspiring Leader allows you to take 10 minutes, which means that you can't do it in the middle of combat, but then you can choose up to 6 friendly creatures, which can include yourself, within 30 feet of you who can see or hear you and who understand you. Each creature can gain temporary hit points equal to your level plus Charisma modifier. A creature can't gain temporary hit points from this feat again until you finish a short or long rest, which also, because it's a short rest, means that you can basically just do this as much as you want, as there is no limitation to it. So if you really have the time, you can do a couple of inspiring speeches to your team to make sure that every single person is getting these. And then at max level, or at what is the highest level for Mantle of Inspiration, it'll be 15th level, you're already gaining more, because you're gaining plus 15 from the level alone, which means it's already better than Mantle of Inspiration. And the Charisma modifier, which at 15th level will probably be 5, so you're gaining 20 temporary hit points, and it didn't waste the most important ability of the Bard, which is your Bardic Inspiration die. So yes, you can't use it in the middle of battle, but if you're going to be giving your team temporary hit points, you probably should be doing it outside of combat. And at lower levels too, it immediately is once again better if you take it at 4th level, or if you took it because you're a variation human, so you can take a feat right off the bat. It'll be 5 temporary hit points. Well, if you take it at 4th level, let's say, then it'll be 4 hit points plus your Charisma modifier. Well, that's going to be 4 plus 4, that's 8. You already are beating the whole shtick of Mantle of Inspiration just by taking this feat. So, yeah, this is just bad. And then this one, you can basically do this naturally because of how high your persuasion can be. Mantle of Majesty allows you to not be using your bonus action for what a bard really can be using their bonus action for. And then at 14th level, the Capstone is pretty neat, but Capstone doesn't save you if you never reach it. So all in all, Glamour is a little bit low. So sorry to anyone who loves the Glamour Bard, but me personally, I would not choose it. If I'm choosing a bard, I'd probably choose maybe more something of the lore bard, which I'll explain now to see if you guys would also choose it and rate it as highly as I do. This is your basic one. The College of Lore is detailed at the end of the class description, or another from the player's handbook, or other sources. So this is your basic bard. This is the one that you get for free. You just hop onto D&D Beyond, no books, no anything, and you can create a College of Lore bard. And it's a pretty good class to be able to make without having any other, books. Because right off the bat, you get to choose a couple of extra proficiencies. So you get to choose any of them. It is not just 3 more from the options that you had. Oh wait, it is. Because the bard gets all of them. So you get to choose from all of them. Which means that you can go for animal handling, you didn't have arcana, you didn't have athletics. Well, now you have those 3, along with the other 3 that you chose, along with whatever you chose to be your expertise, along with the expertise that you get later on. Yeah, I'll go over the bard tomorrow, which you guys will really see why I rate the bard as high as I do, to be arguably the best spellcaster in the game and my second favorite class after the fighter, from personal bias of course, but bard is incredible. Also at 3rd level, besides some bonus proficiencies, which I always say is extremely good because just having more proficiencies is really cool, you get cutting words. Also at 3rd level, you learn how to use your wit to distract, confuse, and otherwise sap the confidence and competence of others. Whenever a creature that you can see within 60 feet of you makes an attack roll, an ability check, or a damage roll, you can use your reaction to expend one of your uses of Bardic Inspiration, rolling a Bardic Inspiration die and subtracting the number rolled from the creature's roll. Now with the Glamour Bard, I was kind of bashing on the fact that you had to use the Bardic Inspiration dies to, like, you're using them not for giving to your allies to help them out, you're just giving like a little bit of temporary hit points. This is helping you and your allies because you can make it to where the enemy cannot hit you because you just rolled a D, at later levels you're rolling like a D12. You roll a 10 and it's now a minus 10 on their attack roll. Yeah, that ain't realistically going to hit many people on an ability check. So if you want your enemy to not be able to break out of something, or if you're in the middle, like a break out of a grapple check, or if you don't want them to, succeed at something outside of combat, you can make it to where they don't. Or if they're trying to hit you with something and they roll, 6 damage and that would kill your teammate, at low levels of course, you can roll your d6, it rolls a 4, so it only does 2 damage. Well, now your ally survives with a little bit of extra HP because you just saved them by saying, "Oi, you dumb," at the enemy, and they're like, and they just don't do as well for the use of Bardic Inspiration die, which is incredible. And you can choose to use this feature after the creature makes it roll, but before the DM determines whether your attack roll or ability check succeeds or fails. But this doesn't mean that, like, oh, the enemy's going to attack you. Oh, I want to use my Bardic Inspiration. Oh, well, they rolled a 12, so it wasn't going to hit anyways. Cool, you subtracted 6 from it, but it wasn't going to hit you anyways. They can go, oh, I rolled a 17. Oh, yeah, I know that a 17 in this instance would probably hit, but it's before they say it succeeds or fails. So you can be like, yeah, I'm going to make that lower. So pretty good. Or before the creature deals its damage. So you can just negate damage afterwards, which is really cool. But the creature is immune if it can't hear you or is immune to being charmed. That's what a lot of things are, is that if they can't be charmed, it isn't affected. But this is something that's often forgotten. So there's that. And then this one can also be bypassed, the can't hear you feature, because you can't just say, oh, instead of shouting it out, I, do an action, like a sight action on it, and then that's what distracts the foe. So this can be, worded differently to make it to where this isn't affected, and then this is often forgotten by DMs like me. I'm just kind of forgetful, but this is incredible because you literally can use a Bardic Inspiration to do a bard-related thing to just deny your opponent from hitting your allies. So instead of your allies being able to hit your enemy better, you can make it to where your enemies can't hit your allies better. So yeah, this is a pretty good use of your Bardic Inspiration die, rather than something that a feat at 4th level, there is no feat that does this. There is no feat that says, oh, you can just take away the attack roll number, the ability check number, or the damage roll number just because. So that's pretty cool, and that gives you like a pretty strong thing to use as a reaction. Also at 6th level, you get probably the strongest 6th level ability that any of the bards get, additional magical secrets. I won't go over too much of what magical secrets is, but basically this will allow you to learn 2 spells of your choice from any class. A spell you choose must be a level you can cast as shown on the bard table, or a cantrip. The spell chosen counts as a bard spells for you, but don't count against the number of bard spells you know. So magical secrets basically says, hey, I get to learn any spell I want in the game, as long as it's the right level. Usually you don't get it all the way until 10th level, so now you're debating, oh shoot, I have to choose between 5th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, and maybe 1st level spells. You probably want to do 1st or 2nd, but 3rd level spells, there's a lot of good ones that you can be choosing from. 4th level spells, a lot of good ones. 5th level spell, a lot of good ones. So it's like, you get up to 5th level, oh man, do I choose those good 3rd level spells now? But then I won't be able to choose like a 5th or 4th level spell that I like. Well, right here, you don't have to worry, because you can just go ahead and be like, you know what I really want, because everybody really loves this spell? Fireball. Now you don't have to worry about taking Fireball at 10th level, because you know it at 6th level. And then you can also choose anything else that is on here, and then once you get to your 10th level as the bard itself, you get to choose from there. And then, hey, look at this, you get more at 14 and 18. So you basically get to go, yes, at this point, at 6th level, I'll choose my 3rd and 2nd level spells I wanted. Here, I'll choose the 5 and 4, 7, 6, probably 7, 8, maybe 9 if there is any other 9th level spells you want to learn. Like, I don't know, Wish. You know, the strongest one in the game. And they could be from any class, which means that depending on what your team needs, oh, we don't have anybody who has strong healing spells? Well, don't worry, guys. I can learn a new healing spell. We need more defense? I'll learn more defense. I'll learn Bless. I'll learn, any other spell that you need, that you actually might need later on. You get additional them, which is super fucking strong. It's kind of strong, So, yeah, there's a reason why I'm, like, this alone makes this arguably the strongest subclass for the bard. And then at 14th level, you get Peerless Skill. When you make an ability check, you can expend 1 use of the Bardic Inspiration die, roll a Bardic Inspiration die, and add the number roll to your ability check. You can choose to do so after you roll the die for the ability check, but before you know whether it fails or succeeds. The fact that this is already strong enough right here, the capstone doesn't even need to be too strong, but it is actually pretty strong, because this allows you to, on ability checks, use your Bardic Inspiration. So you can now use Bardic Inspiration on yourself for ability checks, making it way stronger and a lot better. Like, this is just one of the things that, as a capstone, it just adds. There's no, extra little pieces that are like, oh, well, maybe you don't want to be using it, maybe you can use it. If you're in the middle of something that needs to be related with ability checks, like you're outside of combat, so you don't need to be slinging Bardic Inspirations for your allies to be able to hit stuff, or for the enemies not to hit your teammates, you can use this on yourself to make sure that your Persuasion guarantees a success. You can make sure that you're stealth, because maybe you're not the stealthiest bard. You can then roll your d12 and add it on top of your stealth check, adding a +5 on top of your stealth check, taking it from 17 to a 22. I mean, it's just pretty good. Of course, this is just the best part, and then also cutting words is incredible, which is why I personally put the College of Lore as arguably the best one in the game, because it is arguably the best one in the game. Next up, we have College of Swords. So going from the Brainiac related things, something of study and knowledge, to a more physical-oriented style of bard. Right off the bat, you get bonus proficiencies. When you join College of Swords at 3rd level, you gain proficiency with medium armor and the scimitar. If you're proficient with a simple or martial melee weapon, you can use it as a spellcasting focus for your bard spells. So you get to put on armor, which will help protect you, and you can have a scimitar, which isn't exactly the most common of swords, and why didn't they just let you have all simple weapons, or just say all swords? I don't really know. But yeah, you get some decent armor, and you get a proficiency with a weapon, and you can also use that weapon as a spellcasting focus. So cool. You also gain one of two fighting styles. Dueling, which will allow you to have a +2 to damage rolls with the weapon, which will be your scimitar if you're one-handed with no other weapons, which you probably will be, because unless you're doing two-weapon fighting, you either get +2 to your AC, or +2 to the attack roll, or you can use your ability modifier to the damage of the second attack, which is kind of cool. Like, this is really strong for fighting classes. You know, getting to have a fighting style is one of the best things which a couple of the martial classes get. And then you also gain Blade Flourish. Whenever you attack with the attack action, whenever you take the attack action on your turn, your walking speed increases by 10 feet until the end of your turn. And if a weapon attack that you make as part of the attack, part of this action hits a creature, you can use one of the following Blade Flourish options of your choice. You can only use one per turn. Defensive Flourish. You can spend one use of your Bardic Inspiration to cause the weapon to deal extra damage to the target you hit. The damage equals the number you roll on the Bardic Inspiration die. You can you also add the number rolled to your AC until the start of your next turn. So you basically can deal a little bit of extra damage from here, and your AC will be a bit higher, so it'll allow you to be on the front lines a bit more often. Slashing Flourish, you can spend a Bardic Inspiration die, which will add the number on the die to the damage, and you get to hit any other creature who's within 5 feet of you. So you get to cause the weapon to deal extra damage to the target you hit and to any other creature of your choice you can see within 5 feet of you. That is just the Slashing Flourish part, though. So you're rolling your d6. So you roll the scimitar rolls 4 plus whatever you're using as your actual attack thing. You then get to add 5 extra damage to that. So that means that, let's say you rolled a 4, your dex is +3 because you're using dex, because it never says that you get to use your charisma modifier as your attack. So you're using your dex, which is +3, so 3, 4, 3, that's 7. You get to add 5, which means you do 12 to the one guy that you targeted, and then to anybody else in your sight that is 5 feet of you, that is only 5 extra damage to them. It is not 12 extra damage to them, it is just 5. And Mobile Flourish, the number on the die will be extra damage. You can also push the target up to 5 feet away from you, plus a number of feet equal to the number on the die. You can then immediately use your action to move up to your walking speed to an unoccupied space within 5 feet of the target. I'm going to go over all of this, like when I'm really thinking of this class, when I go over every piece of this class. This will also be the last class that I go over in this video, so there will be a part 2 to go over the other 3 that are left. So you get those Blade Flourishes, a fighting style, and a bonus proficiency in a medium armor and a scimitar. At 6th level, you get the extra attack, which is when you take the attack action, you can attack twice. And then at 14th level, you get Master's Flourish. Whenever you use a Blade Flourish option, you can roll a d6 and use it instead of expending a Bardic Inspiration dice. So that's basically saying that at 14th level, I believe you would have a d12 by now. So instead of rolling a d12 and potentially getting something as low as a 1 and expending the Bardic Inspiration dice, you can just roll a d6 instead, using a lower dice, but keeping your Bardic Inspiration die, which is pretty helpful, because then you don't have to be wasting your Bardic Inspiration die on doing a tiny bit of extra damage, or pushing them back a little bit, or adding to your AC, not doing what a Bard should be doing. I am going to tear this one a new one, immediately trash beyond any reason of a doubt. This is basically saying, hey, you know the bard, the jack of all trades, master of none, the guy who's supposed to be slinging spells, doing charismatic things, being real, deceptive, persuasive, intimidating, kind of the cheerful one of the group, getting to cast all these different spells, really aiding the team in different ways by being, supporting them in certain ways with the Bardic Inspiration die, supporting them with the spells that you can choose from, or from the abilities that you get from the subclass. No, this one is saying that you're now basically going to become like a half-caster. You're like a Pact of the Blade Warlock, or a Paladin. You're going to be, instead of using your Bardic Inspiration dice on your team, you're basically a weaker version of the Battle Master Fighter subclass, which allows you to use superiority dice to be doing extra things in combat, but those extra things that you can do in combat are extremely powerful for the fighter, because that's what the fighter should be doing. They should be up close and personal to the enemies, hitting them extremely hard. You're now building, if you're choosing this, you're building your bard to be a frontline character. If you're wanting to be a frontline character, play a class that is naturally a frontline character. If you want to still be able to cast spells but be on the front line, choose the Paladin, choose the Eldritch Knight Fighter subclass, choose Pact of the Blade Warlock. There's a lot better options than choosing this. This is just detrimental. You're using your Bardic Inspiration die on yourself instead of your team, and it's not even for like super strong abilities, like using them for kind of what the College of Lore can do. These are only inside of combat. There is no outside of combat abilities that you're gaining from this. The extra attack is only if you're taking the attack action, which means that if you're casting a spell action is different from the attack action. So you can't take in the attack action and have the second attack that you do be a spell, or cast a spell and then make an attack action, because you have to make the attack action, which is taking away from the class, because you're a spellcaster. You're also, like, your second thing that you get as a subclass is an extra attack. That's it. That's something that just classes get. Like, the fighter just gets a second attack, not from their subclass, but from the class in general. They get that. If there was a second 6th level ability that, kind of helped, like, oh, with one Bardic Inspiration die, you can use 2 Blade Flourishes at once, that would be extremely cool, because then you can basically gain AC and gain extra damage on the enemy, so you can protect yourself while dealing even more damage to people. Like, that's really cool. But that doesn't do anything. That's not what happens at 6th level. You don't get anything at 6th level. You're just detrimental, because you're building your class to have more dex when you should be charisma based. Like, if it said that you gotta use your charisma as your attack, like the Pact of the Warlock can use their charisma if they're using their packed weapon, they can use their charisma modifier instead of dex or strength. It does not say that you get to do that here. The Artificer gets to use their intelligence and attack rolls when using the armorer stuff. You do not get to use your charisma here. You're using dex. If your dex is only a +2 because you didn't need that high of a dex when you started creating your character, well, now you're just at a detriment because you're not having as high of an attack as you can. And then you also might start needing to choose spells that'll be more oriented to, like, more related to using weapon-related stuff, like, smite options if you want to. But even then, now you're just, like, focusing on yourself, which the bard does not do. The bard focuses on the team. They're the support class. Like, the cleric is the healer a lot of the time. The support class, the person who can heal, who can buff, who can debuff, who can move your allies around for free, who can do everything, is the bard. They are a support class. You're now taking away their supporting stuff to try to give them, like, the spotlight in front of everything, which is just bad. Do not choose this class. This class is total trash. It takes away from the bard. It just turns the bard into a different class, which you could have just chosen and done that better. They are a jack of all trades, master of none, because you're supposed to be able to do everything. But then you're now trying to make them jack of all trades, but a bit better at the melee stuff, but not as good at the spellcasting stuff. But guess what? You're not good at the melee stuff, which now means that those melee classes who are way better than you, you're not going to do as good at them. And because you're now focusing on some stuff with melee, you can't do as good as the spellcasters in your team. Because now you're focusing on melee, which you can't do as well as other melee-focused classes, and now you can't focus on spellcasting, so you can't be as good as the spellcasters. And if you're choosing this class and focusing on the melee, you're losing on the spellcasting. If you choose a subclass but focus on the spellcasting, well, now your melee is going to waste. This is a trap. This is the worst bard subclass, maybe even the worst subclass in the game. I mean, I've only put 2 down here on trash. And to be honest, I could see Glamour going to neutral, to be honest, at this point, seeing how bad the College of Swords is, as there is, like, no saving grace, realistically, to the Swords class, because it doesn't do what you want as a bard. So I would never tell you to choose this class. There is no campaign where this is the subclass you should choose. If you want like a good kind of melee kind of spellcasting, you can be an arcane trickster, the arcane trickster rogue subclass. This guy right here, this one, that is one of your peak ones, which I'll get to when I get to the rogue. But like coming up stuff that you can see, the Echo Knight, maybe the Eldritch Knight. It doesn't seem like the Psy. I don't know if he's mage yet, but there is the Psy fighter that you can choose down here as a fighter subclass. I'll also get into stuff that the monk can do as a half caster, paladin as the half caster melee class. Do not choose swords. I know this was a super long tangent just to attack them, just to attack the College of Swords, but it's for good reason. I'm trying to tell you guys what are some good subclasses to choose and like the real strong benefits from each of them. There is no benefit here. There is no benefit. Do not choose this. Get it out of here. Get it out of here. $9.99 to return this thing. Get it out of my eye. Get out of my sight. If I can just get rid of this class in its entirety, I would. I would get rid of this subclass in a heartbeat. Because it is a trap. It does nothing for you. So, yeah, that's my rant on don't choose the College of Swords Bard subclass. Choose College of Lore. You can even choose Glamour over it. College of Creation is pretty great. You know, it's up here too. You know, like a nice, probably still nice range at this point. I'll have to see what is compared to these two and to the College of Eloquence Bard in the next video. But for now, this is the ranking. Lore, Creation, Glamour, Swords. It's a real mixed bag of where you're putting everything, you know. So, but tangent aside, this has been part 1 of the Bard, as I have, mainly because of this tangent, to be honest. I have reached, 53 minutes now of length, so I will be wrapping the video up. I might have been able to get them all in if I didn't go on as many tangents as I did, but I want to be able to explain every single subclass to you in detail and give you their strengths and weaknesses properly. Something that I feel like I didn't quite do for the Barbarian for everything, just because I tried to cram all of them in. Cleric will probably be 3 videos, 1, probably 2, 3. So be looking forward to the second video today on Saturday. It is Friday for me, but today on Saturday. This video should go up at noon. The next video, like 5 or 6, probably. And then Sunday we'll have the Bard overhaul, the overview of the Bard. But with all that being said, thank you so much for watching and listening to me ramble on about the Bard. If you guys did enjoy the video, then consider hitting the like button and commenting down below what you guys did enjoy, so I can continue doing it, to continue making the videos as well as I do. If you guys didn't like the video, then go ahead and dislike it and tell me down below what you guys didn't like, so I can improve upon it and make the videos better for you all. Also, comment down below what you guys would rank the subclasses for the Bard so far. You know, do you agree with what I've done? Do you disagree? What is your ranking for them? when I'm all said and done with all of the subclasses, and probably a couple of times in between, I will post the actual tier maker that I'm doing, so you can create your own and maybe send them to me on Twitter or on Instagram. But if you guys want to know when I upload, then the best way to know is by subscribing. But that does it for this video. Until next time, bye guys.